Norse specialist Dr. Jackson Crawford. I teach at the University of Colorado Boulder, previously at UC Berkeley and UCLA. Today I'm continuing my somewhat patchily continuous series of Old Norse lessons with some remarks on preterite-present verbs. Now, preterite is an old-fashioned word for past tense, so preterite-present verbs basically in their present tense look like they're the past tense of strong verbs. So if you think back to my video about that, and I'll put a card in the top right corner, or your previous experience of strong verbs in Old Norse, you know the endings are nothing, t, nothing, ooth, oo in the past tense. Well, those are the present tense endings for your preterite-present verbs except for one. Now, because in form they look like they are past tense, they can be a little bit confusing if you haven't encountered them before and don't know what to look up. But it's actually a pretty small class of verbs. These are verbs that you often see very often, such as vita, to know, eiga, to own, skulu, shall, should. But they're so frequent that you get used to them pretty fast. It's also worth noting that in English we have the remnants of preterite-present verbs as well. If you think about verbs where there is no S in the third person singular, right? So, I climb, you climb, he climbs. But think about verbs where there's no S. So, I can, you can, she can. That is a preterite-present verb. And in fact, the cognate of can, Kuna, with kan in the present tense, is a preterite-present verb in Old Norse. So let's look at some of these. One that you will see frequently actually used on its own, and that's worth noting because the preterite-present verbs are often modal verbs. They are auxiliaries to other verbs. I'll talk about that in a few examples in a moment. Is vita, to know. So what you've got there in the present tense, ek veit, thu veitst, han veit, ver vitum, vitud, their vitu. I know, you know, etc. In the past tense, ek vissa, thu vissir, han vissi, ver vissum, vissud, their vissu. And then the past participle is vitater, masculine singular nominative, vitat, neuter singular nominative accusative. Now, it's worth talking about the actual full paradigm of all these verbs because the past tense is not necessarily that predictable. Mostly these come from perfect verbs, not, flawless, but verbs indicating complete states or actions in Proto-Indo-European. And those were inherently stative, and thus, since the perfect tense is stative in Indo-European, they had no imperfective or quote-unquote present tense. So what's happened in Germanic is they've become present tenses since they do describe a present state. But then different things have happened with each particular verb to make a past tense for it. At least that's the best way to think about it when you're looking at it just from Old Norse. In Gothic, some of this is a little more transparent. All right, another one that you'll actually see on its own is eiga, meaning to own. Present tense, ek o, thu ot, hon o, ver egum, egud, thar egu. I own, you own, etc. Past tense, ek otta, thu ottir, hon otti, ver ottum, otud, thar otu. I owned, you owned, etc. And then the past participle, owned, right? If you want to make an Old Norse meme and put the word owned over it, that would be otter in masculine nominative singular, ot in neuter nominative singular. Another one is una. This originally means grant, but comes to mean love, as I've talked about in my video about how to say I love you in Old Norse. Present tense, ek an, thu ant, that an, ver unum, unnud, thou unnu. Past tense, ek unna, thu unnir, that unni, ver unum, unnud, thou unnu. And then the past participle, you sometimes see unother, sometimes under, in masculine nominative singular, you sometimes see correspondingly unat, sometimes unt in neuter, nominative, or accusative singular. Then there is kuna, which means to know how to. This is not used in the sense of simply like I can drive a car in Old Norse, although that would actually work because I know how to drive a car. It's used more often with a noun as the object, so like ek kan norrönu, I know Old Norse. Well, of course it wasn't old at the time. I know the Norse language. I know how to do it. So here we have ek kan, thu kant, han kan, ver kunnum, kunnud, their kunnu. In past tense, often the forms look the same. Ek kunna, thu kunnir, han kunni, ver kunnum, kunnud, their kunnu. So that's present tense, I can. Past tense, I could. Or I know how to, I knew how to. And then the past participle, masculine nominative singular, kunather, neuter nominative accusative singular, kunat. And that can be used on its own, like I said, with an object like a language. It can be used with a verb. Ek kan se berjask. I can fight is what that looks like, but it's really a little closer to English. I know how to fight. This is something I've learned how to do. There's Sturva, to need. Ek tharf, thu tharft, han tharf, ver thurvum, thurvud, their thurvu. I need, you need, etc. Past tense, ek thurfta, thu thurftir, han thurfti, ver thurftum, thurftud, their thurftu. And the past participle, thurfter, masculine nominative singular, thurft, neuter nominative accusative singular. That is need. Then we have two very similar verbs. There is remember, muna, and there is will, the future tense, munu. So muna, to remember, in the present tense, and this is often used with the preposition eftir, I remember you, is likely to be expressed as ek man eftir there, I remember after you. So ek man, thu mant, hon man, ver munum, munud, thar muna. Notice this does end in a in the present plural, unlike the other past present, preterite-present verbs. Although many of them end in a in the present plural now in modern Icelandic. So that's I remember, you remember. Past tense, ek munda, thu mundir, hon mundi, ver mundum, mundu, their, thar, mundu. And the past participle, munother, masculine nominative singular, munat, neuter nominative accusative singular. And now the very similar munu, this is will. This is used as a modal with another verb, just like will in English. I will go, ek mun fara. And this is the normal way of expressing the future tense in Old Norse. Or you just use the present tense and let the context show that it's future, like I go to Iceland tomorrow, meaning I will go to Iceland tomorrow. So munu, present tense, ek mun, thu munt, hon mun, ver munum, munud, thar munu. I will, you will, etc. Past tense may have you, may have y in the root. The y comes from the subjunctive form being used so much that it comes to be the normal past tense form for some writers. So I'll give it to you with the u, but it can have a y too. Ek munda thu mundir, hon mundi ver mundum munduth thar mundu. And of course that's like English would. So ek munda fara till Islands ev. I would go to Iceland if. Of course that could also be subjunctive if it's particularly unlikely. Ek minda fara till Islands ev. And since would is so often subjunctive or uncertain in nature, again, the subjunctive can take over for the indicative for a lot of writers. And there's no past participle for that verb. Then there's skulu. This is cognate with English shall, but it's not used as a simple past participle the way that English shall can be, especially by very formal writers. Right. Where shall we go today? It has more of a sense of English shall in a sort of biblical way. It expresses an obligation, something you must do. So in the present tense, ek skal, thu skalt, that skal, ver skulum, skuluð, thou skulu. I shall, or I must, you must, etc. Past tense, this is a case where, like with mynda, the verb is used so often in the subjunctive in the past tense that the vowel of the subjunctive with I umlaut, with that Y instead of the U, becomes the normal past tense. So, ek skilda, thu skildir, that skildi, ver skildum, skilduð, thou skildu. I don't think any old writers, maybe in Norway, use a U in the roots. You would have the expected ex skulda, etc. Maybe in Norway, but not in Icelandic writings to my memory. And there's no past participle to that verb either. So again, the past tense there is more like I ought to have, right? Ex skilda fara til Islands. I ought to have gone to Iceland, but I didn't for some reason. And finally, this one is a little bit like ega that we talked about earlier on. Mega, meaning to be able to. This is related to English may. Present tense, ek mo, thu mo, han mo, ver megum, meguð, þeir megu. Past tense, ek mota, thu motir, han moti, ver motum, motuð, þeir motu. And two forms of the past participle. There's a kind formed straight from mega, so you get megaður in the masculine nominative singular, megat in the neuter nominative accusative singular, and there's another form more from the root as it's seen in the past tense, motor nominative singular, masculine, mot, neuter nominative accusative singular. All right. Well, I hope for those of you that are sitting along and learning some Old Norse with me that this has been somewhat interesting or informative. Remember, I do also have a video that explores in more in-depth ways that you can learn Old Norse, and I still highly recommend the New Introduction to Old Norse by Fawkes and Barnes. I'm also probably going to eventually produce my own Introduction to Old Norse, but that will be once I'm done with all of my translation projects, and I still have 2 left to finish. The Saga of Hervor and Haetheric with the Saga of Rolf Kraki, or is that the other way around? The Saga of Rolf Kraki with the Saga of Hervor and Haetheric, and the Prose Edda. In addition to my already published translations of the Poetic Edda and the Saga of the Volsungs. I hope that you'll check out my Patreon if you haven't already. Patreon helps me stay alive and keep making these videos. And anyway, thank you for your Patreon support, those of you who are part of that great community. And for now, from beautiful Colorado, let me wish you all the best.